With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Starting to approach the tail end of the season here in the Precision Racing League Super Formula Series live on RaceSpotTV. And what a track we have come to the third last round of the season. We are racing at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. It's going to be a very exciting race. We're looking forward to bringing it to you all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hello everyone, I'm Reese Gardner. Mark Kalin is with me in the commentary box. Dustin Ollis pressing all the buttons behind the scenes. Mark, this is a track that is relatively new to the iRacing service, only about a build old, and same could be said for the Super Formula car as well. Hasn't been on the service for a very long time, so this is going to be a new experience.
Yeah, very new experience for me, especially. The track's so new. I hadn't even bought it until before today. So, looking forward to learning the track just as the drivers are. And, if the Super Formula car has taught me anything, they can put on some great shows this season. And I think tonight's going to be just more of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be magnificent to see how things come out of this round. We are at Algarve, of course, for round 7, and then we go to Suzuka and Kota to finish off the season. Very short amount of time before we can crown our series champion. It's going to be tight at the top of the standings. But as we check out the driver's standings in the AM class, Vasconcelos only 7 points ahead of Christian Jasper, with Blake Ziti only 2 points further behind. Things are pretty cramped here in the top 10 in the AM class, Mark.
Yeah, that top 5 especially looking very spicy. Last couple of rounds, though, I unfortunately wasn't here for Barcelona, but the last couple of rounds, a couple of our top drivers have been having issues bringing everybody behind them closer and closer together. So some of these guys, they really need to get their act together and put some strong finishes in if they want to win this championship.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be difficult, especially in the pro class. Michael Diaz has taken the lead of the championship, and that's quite interesting to see. Diaz, the only driver to finish on the podium in every single round this season. Boris Ovando, a bit further behind in second, with drop rounds now applied. So let's see what they can do. J.R. Williams has always been up in the middle of the top of the pro standings, but hasn't had the best of luck in the last couple of rounds. He's fallen off the wagon a little bit relative to the PRE blue cars.
Yeah, JR and Boris both had that little hiccup at Monza where they both had to end the race early, which allowed Diaz to get that 23-point lead. So they really need Diaz to have some bad luck if they want to find themselves back in that championship fight.
Indeed they do. We can see that the top 6 are all pros in the overall standings. AM class 7th to 10th, top 4 right there. Tight goings here in PRL Super Formula. and we'll check out the team standings before we get into the meat of this broadcast. Precision Racing Esports Blue, well, that's Diaz and Ovando. They have been the top two drivers this season for results, and that shows with how far ahead they are of SRTE White and Blue. Though seeing some smaller gaps there between the SRTE Blue and Lavoie Motorsport teams, only 10 points between them. Same for Destino and Backfire. So let's see how much these standings are jigged around when we come to the next round of the championship at Suzuka. Before we get into racing action here tonight, of course, PRL is brought to you by many great sponsors, among them owned and operated by passionate sim racers. It's Advanced Sim Racing. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available on the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code at checkout. Go to advancedsimracing.com and check them out. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and you'll also get a 5% discount there using the coupon code PRECISION5 at checkout. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Head to thebuttkicker.com, also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Moradness.com, also on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk, Mr. Hedge Simtography on Facebook, and Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography on Instagram. And finally, last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads. Well, we're almost halfway through qualifying for this 7th round of PRL Super Formula at Algarve, and no surprise to see that the PRE blue cars are on top. Diaz and Ovando separated by 2/10. Steve Baker in the AM class, also part of the Precision Racing Esports stable, has had some fantastic runnings in the last couple of weeks. Finished on the podium at Barcelona, and evidently doing very well at Algarve too. Diaz about to come to the end of a lap and a 1:23.59. That's going to increase the margin slightly at the front of the field.
Yeah, going down to a 5.95 from I believe a 0.7. Gonna just make it that much harder for the guys behind him to close that gap. And yeah, like you said, it's been pretty steady at the front as far as Diaz and Ovando grabbing the top 2 spots each week for qualifying. So JR, he really needs to step it up here if he wants to break up that PRE blue fight.
Yeah, Williams was off the pace in practice. He only got to within about a second of Diaz and Ovando. He's done a little better in qualifying. We'll have to wait and see to the end of the session if he can improve. Baker, meanwhile, on a lap at the moment. We check in with the AM class leader, Jake Vasconcelos, for YS Motorsports. Currently improving, it looks like, to 1:24.292. Good stuff there. AM class 2nd place for the time being. David Sirah, meanwhile, part of the Lavoie Motorsports stable with Alex Gouillon, as Baker improves to 2nd spot. Tell you what, the Pro and Am divisions might be decided by iRating, but on pace, Steve Baker probably justified in being a pro.
Yeah, he could consider himself a pro, but Boris said, hold up a minute, I'm going to take that spot right back.
Indeed, and we just saw Sirah improving to 4th place. Excellent stuff there from him, putting JR Williams down to 5th. So JR needs to respond now in that number 13. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, meanwhile, was very pacey in practice. He was up in the top 3, and he is going to improve his time there. up to second spot. Beautiful stuff for Pablo Valenzuela. 123.7 now of the pace he's expecting here. Only 0.2 off Diaz. But the question is, where can you gain that time as we ride on board? You know, this first section of the track, not much to write home about in terms of elevation change, but it's coming out of this hairpin and the turns coming straight after a mark that we really start to see why this track is so popular.
Yeah, I love the elevation change throughout the track. It really adds that extra bit of challenge for the drivers. I kind of wish I was out there with these guys. I have yet to drive on the track in any vehicle, but yeah, as you were saying, Pablo up to P2. That's another one of those guys we've been having our eye on the last few races with some superb runs, being able to fight with the PRE and SRT boys.
Yeah, he got onto the podium at Monza. That's his best result of the season so far. J.R. Williams starting another lap here. 124.1, the time that he's looking to beat here. Let's see what he can do out of turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 down to the slowest corner on the track. This hairpin, see the VIP tower in the background. That is going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities on this circuit. And I think the circuit's really full of overtaking opportunities, but around this section of the circuit, it's not so much straight up outmaneuvering your opponents that will be the deciding factor. It'll be whether or not your rivals can avoid making mistakes, because these elevation changes can really catch you out. There's multiple places where you're just looking at the sky.
Yeah, between that and then once you crest over those hills where the car gets light, if you're coming up on a corner or braking zone, it's really easy to put a foot wrong and either lock up, spin out, or really anything. And honestly, you really want to hope that there's not a car spun out in front of you when you're coming over one of them hills, because you'll never see it coming.
No, absolutely not. Hopefully we don't see much of that in the race to come. Williams across the line, and well, unfortunately that's not an improvement for him. 0.8 off his current fastest. Blake Ziti, meanwhile, coming to the line, and that's going to be an improvement by a 1/10. That's going to grant him 3 extra positions there. Very nicely done indeed from Blake Ziti, up into 10th spot. We'll be very happy with how that's gone down. His teammate Ryan Reeves, meanwhile, halfway around a lap. Let's see if he can improve on a 24.5. Out of the penultimate corner he comes. Got to stick tight on the way out here, and then run as wide as you can into the flat-out final corner, putting so much load through the tyres there and vaulting towards the line. And it's going to be a 24.4 for Ryan Reeves. That's going to grant him a massive improvement too. The gaps are really close in this field. Reeves up to 9th, and he only gained 1/10 of a second. Frankie Arvello also improving by 1 spot over Blake Ziti. Victor Awad improving to 8th spot. Boris Ovando now looking fast in practice. He wants to try and beat Michael Diaz and stake his claim for the championship. It's a big gap between them with the drop rounds applied. So Boris has got a lot to work out here, but looks like he might have gotten a slowdown through that section of the circuit.
Yeah, and just to touch on your point of the tightness of the field, I just want to point out that all the way up to P14 is about 1 second of gap right there, 14 cars. So with that being said, as Ryan Reeves just went for a spin off the crest of one of those hills, and unfortunately he's going to have to restart his qualifying efforts. But yeah, it's a really close field tonight, Reese, excuse me, and looking forward to some good battles here on track, hopefully.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight lap 1 with how equal a lot of these drivers are on pace. Jeff Groff is going to get a slight slipstream to the line here thanks to Barry Cochran, as they're going to be an improvement for Jeff Groff. 125.2. No, that's 0.5 off. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, meanwhile, 2nd place as things stand. Will he be able to improve? Steve Baker is the driver who's trying to get into the top 3 here. Current AM class pole position with 4 minutes remaining in the session. Is there anything he can do to vault himself up the order? JR Williams does. He gets up to 5th spot. Good improvement there. Finally into the 123 bracket. Baker improves and shoves Boris Ovando out of the top 3.
Yeah, really impressed with Steve's performance so far in qualifying right now. And I mean, just curious to see if he can get those extra 2 tenths to catch up to Diaz there for the pole. It'd really be something to see an amateur driver take over for the pro drivers here in this class.
Yeah, certainly would. Blake Ziti looking a little unstable there coming out of turn 4. That might have cost him some time. It won't be an ideal run around this lap for Ziti, who's trying to break further into the top 8. All he needs to do is gain a tenth of a second, and that is 1 position for him. If he can gain 2, maybe even 3 tenths, he's looking at a potential top 5. Ovando, meanwhile, has seen that Baker has put him out of the top 3, and he wants to try and fix that post-haste on a hot lap right now. Looking at the sky, as I said, over this crest, and then diving down through this flat-out left-hander. Got to be careful of your turn-in point here. Double apex corner that tightens on the way through, and you can't see your way into it. Such a beautiful flow around this Algarve circuit.
It really is. It looks like it's a very fun track to drive. Again, I said it before, I wish I was out there on the track, but I would need a lot of practice to get the line right because there's a lot of blind corners and crests. I wouldn't have any idea where I'd be going.
Yeah, I've done plenty of laps around here myself, as that's an improvement for Ovando. He'll put JR Williams back to 5th, but yeah, 4th still for Boris Ovando. It's just equalized. There was an improvement there for JR Williams while Boris was on his lap. Yeah, I've done plenty of laps around this place in other sims, but my first laps here on iRacing were in the rain in a Mercedes GT3 during the week 13 when the weather system was brought out for the first time. And it took me about, I'd say 15 laps or so to really work out my lines around this place. It's so difficult to pick exactly where to brake, exactly where to turn, and you know, how much speed you have to arrest into some of these hairpins, because it's very easy to push too hard into these corners. I think a lot of the corners around here seem faster than they actually are.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a very deceptive track as far as which line to take or where to brake or where to get on the throttle. You seem like you can do it here, but really you got to do it there. It just really plays a mind game with you as Baker gets a little twitchy through that first corner.
Yeah, he's just finished a lap, and what a lap it was. He's only half a tenth off Diaz's pole position time. Could we see an AM class car taking the overall pole position? We'll have to wait and see if Baker finishes his next lap. Ovando, meanwhile, the pressure is on. The clock's about to hit 0. This will be Ovando's final attempt here at trying to get pole position for round 7 of PRL Super Formula. Diaz is off track right now, it seems. He's happy with his times. No, he's actually out on track and was not able to improve on his pole position time, but I think he'll be feeling the pressure. Williams on his final lap. Can he break into the top 3? It's so close here up the front of the field.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, Steve Baker has pulled back into the pits. He got a little tail happy out of one of the exits. And he said, nope, he's done. So unfortunately, he will not be challenging for pole position this evening.
Let's see if JR Williams will be challenging for pole position. 123.7. Good stuff. That's going to be a position granted there up into 4th spot. Ovando in the top 3. And I don't know if he'll be able to improve just entering the final corner. David Sirah just up ahead of him, shortening the run to the line, staying tight out of the last turn. 123.7. That is another improvement there for Ciro Ovando, down to 4th, and he wasn't able to improve on his time. Big changes there at the very end. Oh, this is going to be one heck of a race. Victor Awad not on a lap at the moment, but I tell you what, I'm really excited for this grid.
I am too, Reese. Less than 2/10 separating the top 6. And then, like I said earlier, 1 second separating the top 14. So this is going to be very exciting as we get ready to go through the grid with you here.
Absolutely. Well, Michael Diaz will take pole position by only 44 thousandths of a second from Steve Baker, who takes M-Class pole position emphatically on the front row overall. David Syrah and Boris Ovando will share the second row with J.R. Williams and Pablo Valenzuela Uribe rounding out the top 6. Awad and Vasconcelos on the 4th row of the grid. Blake Ziti and Ryan Reeves, the teammates at SRTE Blue, will round out the top 10. And then we have Frankie Arvello and Kevin McPherson rounding out our top 12.
And in lucky number 13 is going to be Alex Gallion with Jeff Groff alongside in 14th. 15th, Christian Jasper with Brett Thurman in 16th. Cristobal Valenzuela in 17th and Neil Alexander in 18th. 19th will be Dave Peterson with Evander Jonesy Field alongside in 20th. 21st is Barry Cochran, and riding shotgun on the field will be Sean Duhamel in 22nd.
Hugo Galaz did not take part in qualifying, though he did set a time in practice, so he is hoping he'll be able to join us to make it a 23-car grid for the 7th round of PRL Super Formula at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. As the cars start filing onto the starting grid here, we get a beautiful aerial view of this track, and you get a real sense for the elevation changes there. Look at that, coming out of, towards the middle bottom of the screen. Just the dip that the drivers have to go through there. There's some spectacular elevation changes around here.
It's almost as if, remnants of Bathurst almost. You got to climb the first sector and a half, you climbing up, and then the last sector and a half, you climbing down the mountain. So a little bit of Bathurst in there reminded me of that.
Yes.
Maybe not as drastic, though.
Yeah, of course. Lot more space between the corners. There's plenty of interesting little parts of this circuit that have been rendered in the iRacing sim, which is nice to see. Waiting for our Precision Racing Esports drivers to get onto the grid, and it looks like everyone's here. Everyone's ready. And onto the power they will get. Green flag flies for 45 minutes or 32 laps, and we are away. Great start for Diaz and Baker, but looks like a poor start for the SRT white car of J.R. Williams. 3 wide into turn 1 with Jake Vasconcelos and Victor Awad. Awad backs out of it, and Williams will try and hold it, but he's gone too deep into the hairpin. That's going to allow Vasconcelos through into the top 5 overall, as everyone behind is scrambling for position, too wide in many parts of the field.
So far, so good for all these drivers, making it through clean. No contacts that we can see off the starting line there. And moving down through the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2. Diaz firmly out in the lead with Baker close in tow with David Sorrow in 3rd. Or excuse me, is that Boris? I believe that's Boris.
Yes, it is Boris Ovando. So he's ended up getting the position over Siraj. Vasconcelos, it looks like, has had a big issue. He spun around there, and that's at the top of the hill. I don't know if contact was involved there, but easy does it. Goodness me, Duhamel almost cleaned up Jake Vasconcelos there. Oh, and there's a big crash indeed. That's Ryan Reeves and Kevin McPherson that have come together. Reeves's body parts all over the track there. And oh no, it looks like McPherson has retired from that. It looks to me like Reeves spun ahead of him, so there wasn't contact between them that caused that incident. Victor Awad has also had an issue. He spun on the way into the final corner, actually on the exit of the final corner. So plenty of dramas here on just the first lap of this race.
Yeah, shockingly, Reese, it wasn't the first half of the lap, it was the second lap of the half when all the chaos ensued. And it's just unfortunate to see championship contenders mixed up in that crash, having to tow back to the pits.
Yeah, Ryan Reeves and Kevin McPherson already out of the race, and they'll be hoping that whatever repairs they have to get done, they'll get done in due course, and they'll be able to make it back out there and hopefully get a classified points finish. So, midfield at the moment, settling down, and same for the front as well. Michael Diaz in control at the moment. He's leading by 0.7 of a second over Steve Baker, but we saw how close the pace was in qualifying. No one is getting away from the pack. Everyone down to 6 spots, still occupying the same corner. Oh no!
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Neil Alexander on his roll bar. What on earth happened there?
I'm sure we'll get replays here soon enough, but wow, what a wild ride that looked like for Neil Alexander. Unfortunately, that's going to end it for his chance at today's race.
Yeah, that's such a shame for Neil Alexander. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for any further issues for drivers. So we're going to keep an eye out for our first replays of the race. We're going to check out what happened to Neil Alexander. He got a spin over the crest and then hit the barrier, and unfortunately that ended up flipping his car over.
That is a wild ride, for sure. Like I said during qualifying, just light your tires up at the top of a crest when the car gets light, and it'll be easy to loop it around. And unfortunately, Neil Alexander just proved my point there.
Yeah, plenty of power going through the rear wheels of these Super Formula SF23s. The battle for 14th, Cristobal Valenzuela, Dave Peterson, and Jake Vasconcelos. Vasconcelos. He's trying to regain positions here after spinning on the first lap, and I saw him be very aggressive on the way into the corner there versus Dave Peterson. He's backed off a bit now. He's just waiting for that opportunity. Maybe coming out of the final 2 turns, he'll get onto the overtake button, which is one of the defining factors of these Super Formula cars. If you're new to Super Formula, you get 200 seconds worth of extra power to use during the race, and you can use it for as long as you want at a time, but you have to wait 100 seconds in between applications. And for now, it looks like Vasconcelos I think that might be him using overtake there. Also flashing, no, he's not, but Peterson is. I saw the light flashing on the rear of the car there. Peterson just trying to stay ahead. Oh! Vasconcelos will get up the inside as Williams and Valenzuela battle hard over 5th spot. Nice defense from JR Williams. They're starting to lose touch with the rest of the top 4. David Sirah all on his lonesome in 4th place right now. This battle's still going on. Peterson now losing the position to Evander Jonesyfield.
Yeah, Jonesyfield looking to recover that position behind Peterson after the pass was completed. And during that Pablo JR fight, a little bit of wheel banging was going on there. Pablo was sticking his nose in there saying, hey, come on, JR, let's get a move on. Let's go.
Yes, indeed. JR will want to get a move on because the top 6 is really spaced out now as Evander Jonesyfield will have to be looking in his mirrors there. The car of Dave Peterson just pressuring him massively throughout the last half of the lap and all the way to the inside of the final corner, but Peterson hasn't managed to get the line right. Meanwhile, this is a little further up the field. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe trying on JR Williams, but it's just not working. Williams is putting on a great defensive drive right now.
Yeah, I think Pablo's going to send it in the inside here. And there he goes. And he's going to clear him on the exit. That was
Nicely
a great move
done.
there. That was a great move, Reese.
Yeah, lovely move from Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. Meanwhile, Evander Jonesyfield spun while we weren't looking at him, and it looks like he's gone all the way down to 19th place. Fortunately, he's managed to get going cleanly. One person who didn't get going cleanly was Kevin McPherson. This is Ryan Reeves spinning in front of him and getting collected on lap 1.
Just nowhere to go for McPherson, unfortunately. Reeves just ever so slightly losing the rear end of that car, and unfortunately not losing it enough to where he could roll out of the way or anything like that. And in comes McPherson.
Yeah, big shame for both of them. 3 retirements from this race so far. Reeves and McPherson, of course, and Neil Alexander. Looks like Hugo Galaz might be in a bit of trouble as well. He's just retired back to the pits as Pablo Valenzuela Uribe and JR Williams are still going at it. For a brief moment, Williams was ahead, but man, they are fighting so hard over this last spot in the top 5. And for JR Williams, this is a frustrating battle to be involved in. Remember, he's 3rd in the championship with only 3 rounds to go. He needs every point he can get to come up to Michael Diaz and Boris Ovando.
And Pablo just got it ever so wrong in that final hairpin there. JR was able to take advantage and get the move done on Pablo, move JR back into P5.
Yeah, nicely done. And let's see, with a bit of clear air ahead of him, what JR Williams can do. Whether or not Valenzuela will jump on push to pass and get it done again down the start-finish straight. Plenty of battles throughout this field. We'll get a replay of what happened to Evander Jonesy Field meanwhile. Going up the inside of Sean Duhamel. No, that's... oh, there we go. Yeah, just a spin by himself, it looks like. It was Dave Peterson who he was trying to attempt the move on in the number 35.
Yeah, just got a little too hairy on the power. As Pablo's making another move into turn 1, JR wisely backs out of it.
Yeah, turn 1's pretty fast, and you've got to be fully alongside before you try to make a move, and I think JR wisely decided it wasn't worth fighting into the turn there. Peterson and Awad, meanwhile, Awad on the recovery here, getting back up into 15th spot, but he's got a lot of ground to make up to even think about the top 10. Hearing of a small issue, meanwhile, for this guy, Christian Jasper, who's in the fight for the AM Class Championship. Seems like there was a bit of an issue at turn 1. Just got on the curb on the exit here, and oh, that's a big bit of instability there. Managed to recover it in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, very lucky that there was enough grass there and not a wall.
Yeah, indeed. Algarve, of course, opened in 2009 or thereabouts, so it's very much a modern circuit with asphalt runoff areas and plenty of space to recover if you make a mistake. We keep an eye on this battle between Valenzuela Uribe and JR Williams.
Got Boris making a move for P2.
Yeah, here we go. Big screen is Boris Ovando making the move up into 2nd versus Steve Baker. So now there is the fight forward for the number 2 of Boris Ovando. Can he do anything to catch Michael Diaz? Now, you weren't here last round at Barcelona, Mark, but we did discuss before we went live. Ovando and Diaz came together battling for the lead at Barcelona. And there was obviously a bit of a debrief between them at PRE Blue. Let's see how this battle ends up going for them if Ovando can catch up.
Well, I think the only thing that's going to change is, well, that was last week, this is this week, so have at it, boys.
Yeah, I would expect so. No team orders at Precision Racing Esports, or at least that's the presumption I get. Steve Baker keeping the pace up. He's not letting Ovando get away too much, but you do see there's some distance now being put between them. Seems like Ovando might have been holding back for the time being and just waiting for the opportunity. Now he's got a bit more clear air. He will start to pull the move on Diaz, I would imagine. Ovando set the fastest lap of the race a few laps ago, and he was the fastest car on track last lap as well. Let's see what the lap times are coming across the line here. So Diaz with a 25.4 and a 25.0 for Ovando. That's some fantastic pace there. But even better is Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, 124.7 in 5th spot. Seems like JR Williams doesn't have any fight for him.
Yeah, no, Pablo very quick this week with the pace. JR just seems to be struggling for whatever reason. I don't know if it's lack of track time or what, but for some reason JR just not on the same pace as he has been all season long.
Yeah, probably having some difficulties here at Portimao as Diaz runs wide in the hairpin. This is not good for Michael Diaz. It seems like the pace has just completely disappeared from the number 30, the championship leader. And here comes Boris Ovando to try and take the lead away from his teammate.
The fight's on, Reese. It's on, and it's a raring.
It absolutely is. I'm loving this. I love it when they get the elbows out and race hard in amongst their team for the lead of the race, potentially for the championship lead, depending on how things go. Of course, Ovando a long way back from Diaz, and it'll be difficult to make up that points gap in the final 3 rounds if Diaz finishes them all. But here he comes.
Close enough for a move.
Oh yeah, that's a big run out of the final corners for Boris Ovando, and he draws alongside Diaz into the braking zone. Diaz will try and fight it, still side by side, coming out of turn 1. Ovando compromised on the exit. Will Diaz be able to hold on round the hairpin? He will. Gets on the power a little earlier. He's willing to fight. And what happened at Barcelona last week was Steve Baker was able to take advantage of this and get into the lead. It looks like the same thing might be happening here. Diaz has to give up the lead to Ovando coming into the hairpin. Lock up for Ovando. They are pushing so hard. And that little bit of action has brought the rest of the top 5 back into contention. Syrah and Uribe are closer than they've been for a while.
And you know what I love the most about that, Reese, is it was hard racing, but it was clean racing. Not any contact, not, chopping each other's noses off or anything like that. It was hard, clean racing, and that's what you love to see here from the PRL.
Yeah, exactly. When there are incidents, they are dealt with in good fashion, and looked like there was just enough space given and not an inch more between Ovando and Diaz. We have a new race leader. Ovando will lead the end of lap 10, and both he and Diaz are on the overtake cooldown right now. One person who's not cooling down is Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. He's starting to make moves now. Using push to pass to get past David Syrah and up into the top 4. This is the vaulting that I was thinking about for Pablo Valenzuela. He was fast in practice, and it looks like his race pace is reflecting that.
It is indeed, and I think he's going to be fast enough to be able to battle Steve Baker for a podium position here again. Hopefully Steve puts on a good fight for PRE, and hopefully Pablo puts on a good fight for his team as well.
Yeah, he is hoping. So
JR almost got to the back of David Sorrell there in that corner. Oof.
Yeah, he did. These two are starting to heat up a little bit. JR's not going to be able to get up the inside here, but Syrah's been looking a little inconsistent on this lap. David got onto the podium, I believe, at Barcelona last week. I think he finished off the podium, but interestingly, neither Ovando or Diaz showed up for an interview last week after the contact they made coming into turn 1. So we did have a chat to David after Barcelona, and he was feeling optimistic about Algarve, but push to pass active for J.R. Williams. He's going to draw alongside Syrah and put him out of the top 5. Syrah now down 3 positions. He's going to have to try and get that pace back somehow.
Yeah, David pulling the brakes on just ever so early in that straightaway, and said, all right, JR, you're faster than me. Go chase him down.
Absolutely. Well, keep an eye on our leaders here with Uribe on a fantastic run of pace. Now holds the fastest lap of the race so far, 124.4. This is looking mighty rapid from the number 32. Is there anything he can do to, getting onto the podium, I think, is definitely a possibility, but getting into the top 2, bit harder, because Ovando and Diaz, they might be running slightly slower at the moment, but they've got consistency on their side.
Yes, they are very consistent drivers, and I'm sure they're probably saving a lot of that push to pass too for later in the race.
Yeah, that's what you tend to see in these races. The drivers at the top of the field don't use push to pass right away. They tend to wait before they deploy it, and they'll try and use it up as much as they can to the end. It's not the only place we're seeing battles. This is for 17th. Barry Cochran, Evander Jonesyfield, and Sean Duhamel. Jonesyfield trying to recover from his earlier spin. Still up 2 spots from where he started. That's largely due to retirements as Cochran locks up, and that's going to cost him quite a bit of time to Jonesyfield and Duhamel behind.
Yeah, you see Sean with the late brakes there on Jonesyfield, trying to make up a little bit of time there. Compromised him a little bit on the exit of the corner, and holds a little bit tighter of a line through that corner as well. Sorry, I don't know what corner numbers or names these are, as I am not very familiar with this track, so please bear with me with that.
Yeah, me either, honestly. It's I do consume information like a sponge about racetracks, but Algarve does seem to escape me. I'm just awed by the nature of this circuit, how incredible it looks to drive around, and how difficult it is to get right lap after lap. It's so hard to get consistent pace here, as we've seen for many drivers in this field. Nice wide view of Steve Baker here as he tries to keep Uribe and Williams behind him. Do any of them get on the overtake button? Diaz in second is on overtake. He's trying to minimize the gap to Ovando in the lead, who takes the fastest lap of the race back. 124.2 is his last lap time. And, well, towards the end of the straight, Baker is now having to look over his shoulder a little bit because here comes Uribe and Williams.
Yeah, Baker gonna start doing some mirror driving here, playing defense, and he's gonna do his best to hold off these hard chargers and help out his other teammates for as long as he possibly can against JR and Pablo.
Well, final lap sim racing teams, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, were nowhere near the final lap of the race. Still got plenty of time to go. Try and look after the front tires. You need a car that will be stable and pointy throughout this section of the circuit. If you're overheating the front tires, you will have no chance of making your way through this section quickly. It looks like Uribe's been able to get it done. 2/10 down, though, in Sector 2, and a bit wide of the apex there. Oh, and he's struggling to get on the power. He's got to be careful. Remember, Uribe had some great pace for a sequence of laps. I think he might have overheated the tires.
Oh.
Not to mention J.R. Williams on overtake around the outside coming into turn 1. It looks like Uribe's going to respond with some overtake himself, but there's more momentum here for J.R. Williams. There's a slight bit of overlap, though. Can Uribe keep the position? Room has to be given, but Williams is going to take it.
Very respectful racing between these two, and coming out of that last corner, Uribe just a little bit sideways, and that's what gave JR the run down the front stretch into turn 1. Great stuff to see from JR, taking advantage of a little bit of misfortune for Pablo.
Indeed. It looks like Valenzuela Uribe is going to have to back off a little bit, get those tires cooled back down, and then he can try and fling himself a little further forward in the field. Remember, these guys are battling for 4th place, and it could be 3rd if Steve Baker makes a mistake. But for now, it looks like Baker is having a pretty good time there, sitting in 3rd behind Diaz and Ovando. And speaking of Boris Ovando, he's starting to extend that lead. It's now 2 seconds versus Diaz. Ovando, very comfortable at Algarve. I remember seeing him race last month at VCO Infinity. They raced the IndyCar here at this track for one of their races, and Ovando was looking mighty quick in that. So when it comes to open wheelers and Portimao, it looks like Ovando is the one to beat.
Well, Ovando might be comfortable. Diaz might not be as comfortable because last 2 laps in a row, Steve Baker has been 0.3 faster on each lap. So Baker still has the pace to be able to challenge Diaz possibly late in this race for a P2. And then that'll make it hard for JR and Pablo to make a P3 fight.
Yeah, certainly will. Let's see if Baker will be able to maintain the pace here. He's still got some slipstream down the straights versus Diaz, but these two a little further back. Yeah, this will be an interesting battle if Diaz can't bring the pace back. He was a tenth slower than Ovando, 3/10 slower than Baker, as you said. So I think this is a pattern that I'm seeing. There's a period of about 2 to 5 laps where we're seeing one driver be faster consistently, and then their pace drops off again. I get the feeling that they're just alternating, pushing and backing off just to see if they can keep the pace up.
That is very possible. I'm also keeping my eye on another battle we're having right here for P13 between Cristobal Valenzuela and Victor Awad. I know I butcher that name every time I say it. I'm sorry, Victor.
Indeed. Christian Jasper is the driver ahead of Victor Awad right now, and Jasper responding by getting onto the overtake button. Awad does not. Remember, Victor's one of the drivers who's on a recovery drive in this race. He started in the top 10 and unfortunately had an incident in the early laps. He's trying to work his way back up into the top 10, but it's looking like a bit of a big ask for him. The top 10 is about 10 seconds ahead of him at the moment. So all he can really hope for is a clean battle with Christian Jasper and maybe some clear air.
Yeah, that is a mountain to climb for sure. 10-second gap for 20 minutes left in the race roughly. Yeah, that's going to be a tall ask, and I don't know if anyone honestly is up to that task.
I apologize for accidentally punching my mic boom arm there as we make our way into the final sector of this circuit. Jasper is his fastest lap is about 0.6 of a second slower than Awad's fastest lap, and Victor 0.2 faster on the previous lap as JR Williams gets the overall fastest lap of the race. He looks to be on a charge right now. He's made his way past Uribe and is now trying to chase down Steve Baker. Speaking of chasing down, Victor Awad on overtake is going to get it done on Christian Jasper down the start-finish straight. And his next target will be Brett Thurman in the number 69. Meanwhile, I'm seeing... JR Williams is actually on a massive turn of pace right now, and Uribe's lost a lot of time. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and see if anything happened. Word is we're not seeing anything that Pablo made any errors or not. Maybe just went wide in a corner somewhere.
But yeah, it looks like just poor pace at the moment from Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, but we do see that JR Williams has gotten some pace back. Some of the fuel has burnt off in the car, and it looks like Williams is a bit more comfortable now. Let's see if he gets on overtake coming out of the final corner. He does not, but he still has great momentum over Steve Baker, who is probably having trouble with overheating the rears considering where Williams is making up the pace. And into the first corners they come. Williams now right on the back of Baker and going for the podium with a big dive at turn 3. Baker's going to hold on to it, but he has to get off the throttle over the rise. Here we go. Overtake for JR Williams, and that will help him complete the move into the VIP Tower hairpin.
What a send from JR. Got the job done in the next chicane, or excuse me, next horse hairpin. Good lordy. But awesome stuff from JR Williams. Great battling. Great respect from Steve Baker. Not making any contact and putting on some clean racing.
The replay of the move, and wow, that was a big dive. Good thing that Steve Baker saw him coming, and something that you see a lot in the opening turns at Portimao, trying to force the other driver wide out of turn 3. They'll compromise themselves through turn 4, and you can complete the move at turn 5. JR Williams onto the podium for the time being and still holding the fastest lap of the race so far. Our top two, Ovando and Diaz, streaking away ahead. Yeah, Baker's coming back. Oh, yeah. That is a massive run that Baker has there. Looks like JR Williams had nothing to respond with. Potentially didn't have a good run through the last 2 turns there.
Yeah, Williams had just a bit of a wider line through the final corner, and Baker kept it tighter. That's what allowed for the better run.
Yeah, so now JR will be a little frustrated, thinking about where he can make his next move. He's got a while to wait, probably till the end of the lap here, to use the overtake button again. We're approaching the final 12 laps of this race, as we're hearing a spin for Brett Thurman. He's in the gravel trap at the moment. Looks to be at the opening turns, and he did that all by himself. That allowed Victor Awad and Christian Jasper past him. But Williams starting to come back here through the middle of the circuit, and I would 100% expect him to get on push to pass again, but a little bit wide on the exit for Steve Baker. That's compromised JR a bit coming out of the penultimate turn. He is on overtake. Yep, the green light flashing on the roll hoop, and he's going to get it done here.
Yeah, nothing Steve can do but just to say, all right, JR, see you in a minute.
Indeed. Well, let's see how long JR can hold on to that, as Michael Diaz has taken the fastest lap, first race lap time that we've seen in the 1 minute 23 second bracket. So maybe Boris Ovando will have to start looking in his mirrors soon.
Yeah, this is some awesome, brilliant racing between Baker and JR right now, just back and forth each lap as they wind down the laps here with about 15 minutes to go, as we bring up a replay of Brett Thurman here.
Unfortunately, the curb on the exit of turn 1 used to be a popular place to have a problem, and Victor Awad having to take avoiding action there. Very lucky to not get involved in a massive incident there. Brett Thurman is back going now, but he's down in 15th place. This is Awad's view of it, and yeah, thank goodness for asphalt runoffs.
Yeah, Victor, all he was thinking right there is, please lock it down. Please lock it down. Don't hit me.
Yeah, those little moments of heart attack that define the action in these cars. Frankie Arvello versus Blake Ziti, meanwhile. Ziti on overtake cooldown, but he's in the slipstream, and this is a great run coming down into turn 1. This is for the last position in the top 7. And Ziti up the inside into turn 1 will get it done. Does Arvello have anything to respond with? No, he's not going to try and dive to the inside. Not confident enough on the brakes to make it work that time, but you never know. This battle for 7th could brew up into something fierce. Could even become a battle for 6th if they keep up the pace. Both of these drivers ran equal or faster pace than David Sirah ahead.
It's always comforting when you're behind a driver, you're battling, and you're still faster than the car 2 cars ahead of you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm just wondering where Sirah's pace has gone. It's interesting to see. It's just having trouble with consistency, it seems. So we'll see what Blake Ziti can do to try and catch up to him here. Ziti, the one SRTE blue car left in the race after Ryan Reeves' unfortunate spin on lap 1, so it's all down to Ziti to try and get maximum points for the team, and currently running in AM Class 2nd place. He'll certainly be getting those points.
Yeah, Baker making a charge towards JR into turn 1 here. Might have enough for the move. No, he backs out of it.
Yeah, he's just waiting, isn't he? Just waiting for the right opportunity. He knows that Williams will have to pay for his pace soon with potential overheated tyres. So just backing off for the time being, waiting for the move. But they need to keep an eye out behind because Pablo Valenzuela Uribe is starting to come back at these guys. Lock up for JR Williams coming into the hairpin, though I don't think I've seen anyone in this field not lock it up into that corner at some point. It's just one of those corners in an open wheeler. But you see how close the number 32 is getting.
Yeah, Pablo turning on the afterburners, and JR going to need to be careful out ahead too because they got the lap car of Barry Cochran ahead. So they'll be closing that gap very rapidly, and hopefully Barry does the gentlemanly thing and just moves over and lets these guys fight it out. But yeah, Pablo really putting on the pace. He's within a few car lengths right there in that corner.
He is indeed. Dave Peterson coming into the pits, and we're not sure why. It looks like he's decided to retire the car. Don't know what the deal is there. Doesn't look like any damage on the number 35, but we've lost another car. That brings our retirements list up to 5. Keep an eye on this battle as overtake is on for Steve Baker. Try and get past JR Williams, and he had a wild ride through turn 1 there. I think the car almost came out from under him in the number 55. But Baker will keep up the pace, or at least he'll try his best to. Williams is starting to gain a bit more of an advantage.
Yeah, I think Steve right now, as long as he's within that slipstream of JR, I think he's okay. Trying to use as little push to pass as possible, I believe. Whereas Pablo, he is really not saving anything. He is close to knocking on the door of Steve Baker.
Yeah, the battle is starting to swing in Uribe's favor here. Williams himself having a couple of small errors on the way into these corners too. Uribe currently second fastest of the cars in this 3-car pack. Be waiting with bated breath to see what the lap times are like here. Using a lot more curb in the second last corner was Uribe there, and on to overtake. Let's see how much ground he makes up here on Steve Baker. Across the line they come, and it's going to be a 24-0 for Williams, 24-4 for Baker, 23.98 for Uribe. So the pace is starting to come back here to the number 32.
Yeah, both Williams and Uribe on the push to pass down the front stretch. Baker was the only one not on it, and still maintained a decent gap to Williams.
Yes. Plenty decent indeed. Out of the curve they come, and man, like there's so many places around this track where you got to try and keep up corner speed, but also nail the throttle on exit as well. This turn is one of those places you got to straighten up the wheel as soon as you can. He's going over that crest, a very popular place to go for a spin, and looks like Uribe might have compromised himself a little bit. I'm not seeing him get any closer to Baker anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if he just had a slow exit or just had some trouble getting the power down. Maybe ran a little hard into the braking zone and compromised his exit that way. But yeah, I think he can still recover from it and catch back up to these boys.
Well, Baker's on overtake and trying to catch back up to JR now as Ovando takes the fastest lap back. 123.5, now the pace being set. That was half a second quicker than Diaz running in second. Ovando evidently the one to focus on race pace as opposed to qualifying among the PRE blue machines. We'll keep our eyes out to see how the battle for third works out here. Baker gaining down the start-finish straight thanks to his use of overtake, but JR Williams still has plenty in hand. I'd like to see if that green light starts flashing coming out of the penultimate corner for the number 13.
Yeah, it's almost like they're switching laps. JR does it one lap, Steve does it the next lap, as far as when they use the push to pass. So they're just alternating. That's the word I was looking for there, Reese. Alternating laps of using push to pass.
Indeed. But it's all going to be about who can keep the pace up on those laps where they're not using push to pass. Ovando, meanwhile, starting to encounter lapped cars. He's just made his way past Barry Cochrane there. And, well, Cochrane, the last running car out on track at the moment. 18 machines still running out there. Diaz then makes his way past. Looks like Barry Cochrane's being nice and courteous to our leaders, making their way through. Steve Baker was actually the fastest car on track last lap. 123.89 as he's edging ever closer to J.R. Williams.
Yeah, he's making sure to keep the pressure on JR. Doesn't want him to get too comfy. Think that he can just cruise along. You know, all these guys just kind of maintaining their gaps right now. I'm looking through the leaderboard. Looks like another close battle is between Blake Ziti and Frankie Arvello right now as well for P7.
Yeah, ZT was driving pretty hard for 7th spot earlier, and he'll be keeping his eyes out. So will Jeff Groff for the last position in the top 10. Jake Vasconcelos on the recovery, and he's getting closer to where he qualified. Groff, oh, that's very wide. That's going to give the chance here to Vasconcelos. Up the inside, maybe. Get on the brakes. Up the inside he goes, and Groff will let him have it. Oh, that's a big slide for Vasconcelos, but Groff doesn't immediately take advantage. That's interesting.
I think he was afraid that he was going to turn back across his path, and he backed out of it, which I don't blame him for. I wouldn't want a wrecked race car either, but at least he continues to fight.
Indeed he does. Look at the momentum that Groff is carrying there down the straight. These guys have made their way past Barry Cochrane as well. And Jake will hold on to the position for the time being, but will he have been spooked by that slide? Will he have to get the tyres back down to a good temperature is the question.
Yeah, that is a good question indeed. It doesn't take much for the tire temps to come up after a wheel spin moment or a little slide like that, but it does take a while for them to cool back off when you're in a race.
Boris Ovando just got a huge fright. Evander Jonesyfield was coming up to be lapped by Boris Ovando and spun in front of him. Fortunately, Jonesyfield was able to get out of the way as Ovando came through. Boris will continue in the race lead, but he's lost a 10th to Diaz thanks to this incident here. Ovando, fortunately, was able to take the racing line, but yeah, that's a bit of a scare our leaders wouldn't have wanted, as J.R. Williams has given up the 3rd place running to Steve Baker again. Looks like Baker's starting to come back.
Yeah, JR was not happy with Jonesyfield after that little spin. I believe he may have tried to re-enter the racing line right in front of our battle for 3rd. That may be why JR was not happy with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did.
Little wheel happy.
Oh, tries to keep up the defense, but that's too much power in the rear wheels. And the frustration compounding for J.R. Williams.
Yep. Just needs to take a deep breath, refocus as we get another look at that replay here.
Yeah, listen to this.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, Williams had to get out of the throttle there and ran wide in the penultimate corner. That's what allowed Baker through. So now Williams is going to have to try another one of his big dives to get it done here. Yeah, ultimately, that is how Baker made his way past. Replay in the big screen, live pictures in the little screen, and don't know if there's anything that that Williams can do to find his way back past Baker from here. He would have burnt up his rear tyres with that big slide out of the hairpin, and Baker's on the overtake button. He wants to try and stay ahead. No response that J.R. Williams has for the time being, but he is so strong under brakes. Look at him go. There's another big dive. He's moving around in the mirrors trying to psych out Steve Baker, but it's not working.
Yeah, with 3 laps to go, it's go time for JR. If he wants that spot back, he can't afford to just sit back here and wait. He's got to apply pressure every corner.
Oh, there's Steve Baker's turn to have a bit of wheel spin on the exit of the hairpin. That will bring the advantage back into Williams' favour, which is a great battle for third spot. Remember that Baker is the AM class leader right now, and you know, he's a long way ahead of the next AM car, but a good overall finish will provide way more points for Baker. AM and Pro are classified under the same point system. There aren't separate points for Pro and AM. They're scored by where they finish in the race. So this is the exact advantage that Baker will want to maintain.
Yeah, and if I'm Baker right now, I'm just doing my best to, you know, run your line and only be defensive if necessary. You don't want to compromise yourself too much, and especially if you don't think there's going to be a shot of a move from behind.
Well, there could definitely be a move here as Williams is close, but not close enough. He can't go for the big dive through turn 1, but turn 3 might come to him. He gets alongside Baker, forces him wide, and we've seen this move happen before, but Baker will get back onto line.
He's got
Slight momentum. Oh, defensive for Steve Baker. J.R. Williams will have to go the long way around here.
Over under, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. That's a much better exit for the number 13, but again, Baker will be defensive coming into the next turn. There's a chance they might come together here, but Baker will...
Oh,
there we
no!
go! Oh, I spoke it into existence. I manifested it. I'm so sorry, guys. Steve Baker and J.R. Williams come together. That is disastrous. That will promote Pablo Valenzuela Uribe to third spot. Baker's been able to continue, but J.R. Williams is out.
Oh my goodness, I am just speechless and heartbroken all at the same time for those boys. And then Pablo there just to pick up the pieces, put himself up into P3. Oh my goodness, that was tough to watch.
Huge. Yeah, that was really tough to watch. This is the onboard from Baker, so Williams gets the move done, and then Baker, I think, just on the brakes too late, goes right into the number 13, and Williams loses his rear wing, and that's a death sentence in an open wheel car. It is the final lap though, and Boris Ovando continues to lead from Michael Diaz, but Diaz is starting to come back here. Both of them are using the overtake button. This is an external view of what happened between Baker and Williams, and yeah, I think just the mental load may be compounding there for Steve Baker. Such a shame that the battle for third ended in that fashion, but there's one driver who we should congratulate here, and it is Boris Ovando. At least for the time being. The race is not over. We still have a good portion of the lap to go. Diaz might be able to come back at him. Michael is driving hard to try and catch back up, but Ovando's been on overtake for the whole lap. So is Diaz. But our Precision Racing Esports Blue Cars will grab another 1-2 finish here at Portimao. Boris Ovando is your winner in Precision Racing League Super Formula Round 7.
Well, Reese, as always, these Super Formula cars have put on an amazing race. And we got another battle forming up here at the last few corners, excuse me.
Yeah, Baker trying to get to the
place.
finish with no front wing.
Side by side in the last corner.
Yeah, he's going to lose it. No pace in that car at the moment.
Just didn't have the front downforce to be able to compete.
Yeah, and ultimately that means that Blake Ziti is going to take the AM class win. Alex Guyon second and Baker in third. Oh wow, what a dramatic end to that race. And it's still not over for a few drivers. Christian Jasper will make his way across the line in 12th. Valenzuela not far behind him. And Brett Thurman, it looks like, will be the last car to take to the finish. Get some airtime for the SRTE Blue Machines.
And Cristobal finishes it just now. And then here comes Thurman out of the last corner.
Indeed he does, and that will conclude the race here. PRL Super Formula Round 7 will go to Boris Ovando, who finished 9/10 of a second ahead of Diaz at the very end. Diaz grabbing the fastest lap on the final lap. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, well, we saw him battling hard in the top 5. The coming together between J.R. Williams and Steve Baker means he gets 3rd. Syrah and Ziti will round out the top 5. Ziti takes the AM win. Frankie Arvello in 6th spot, up from 11th. Nicely done. Same for Alex Gouillon, 13th to 7th. Baker will get to the end of the race, sans front wing, and Jake Vasconcelos and Jeff Groff will round out the top 10.
Coming home in P11 will be Victor Aoud and Christian Jasper in 12th, Cristobal Valenzuela in 13th, Brett Thurman 14th, and very unfortunate for J.R. Williams to end his night in P15 after a very hard-fought battle for P3 gone south. Evander Jonesyfield in P16, Sean Duhamel in 17th, and your last car running P18 as the junkyard starts with Dave Peterson, Hugo Galaz, and rounding out the field will be Neil Alexander, Kevin McPherson, and Ryan Reeves.
McPherson and Reeves both out on lap 1. Absolute devastation for quite a few drivers here tonight. But we can get into driver interviews and talk to our podium. The first one we're going to chat to is Boris Ovando. Fantastic job, Boris. You weren't quite there in qualifying, but it looks like race pace was where you were strong today.
It looks like it. I thought it was going to be faster in quali, but it just didn't happen. And I just had to battle it out in the race. I killed my front left tire, but luckily it was just enough to survive the chase from Mike.
Yeah, tires were a big factor here today, it looks like. It's just the nature of the circuit, isn't it? So many high-load corners and having to deal with the elevation change. It must have been tough to get consistent laps around here.
It was. You really had to manage the tire temps, make sure you don't lock up, take it easy on the right-handers. But we had some experience with that at Barcelona, so I was able to transition that. Also, Mike and I used different sets today too, and so his, I think, had the better not top speed, but the better overall speed on low weight, whereas mine, I think, was better in the race pace, and I think we saw it here in the race.
Well, second in the championship coming into this round, you were 23 points behind Michael, and with 2 rounds to go, it's looking like it's going to be tough for you to take the title clearly from here, but what are you expecting from the last 2 rounds of the championship?
Well, I'm going to have to slide a couple bucks to Steve or Frankie and see if they can help me out. I'm just kidding. Nah, Mike has a pretty good lead. We'll see what happens. I wish him good luck for the last 2 rounds. We work together. We're going to battle it out every race, and the best man should come out on top.
Indeed it shall. Thanks for joining us, Boris Ovando. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff from Boris Ovando. Next up, we've got Michael Diaz, who brought home a Precision Racing Esports Blue 1-2 mark. You stood by with him.
Well, Mr. Diaz, once again, we find you on the podium. Seems to be a very consistent habit for you. Congratulations on P2 tonight. What do you think you needed just a little bit more of to be able to pass Boris for the win?
I mean, it's really hard to follow here. Maybe it could have been more aggressive when he tried to go when he went for the move. But at this point, I feel like it's my championship to lose, so it's not really worth risking it unnecessarily. So P2 works. Congrats on Boris for the win. He had great pace today. But at this point, just bring it home every race for me.
Yeah, definitely don't want to risk anything crazy and take you out of the championship fight. That is completely understandable. Well, next week, do you have anything looking forward to for next week?
It's Suzuka. It's probably going to be a terrible race, but it's lovely to drive. I bet it's a blast in these cars with the downforce, so just enjoy it. Bring it home clean and try to get some more points.
Well, that is definitely the goal for sure, and really appreciated that battle between you and Boris, giving it all you had while being respectful of each other. That was awesome to watch on screen, and look forward to seeing more of that next week at Suzuka for you. Congratulations again on P2, and good luck next week.
Yeah, man. Thanks, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast every night. And I'll see you next week.
And that is
Good stuff
Michael
from
Diaz.
Michael Diaz.
Sorry about that, Reese.
All good. Tripped over each other a little bit there. One driver who did not trip over on his way to a podium was Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. Fantastic job, Pablo. Getting a podium
Hey,
that
guys.
you probably didn't
Give me a
expect.
second that I have to fix something here.
Okie dokes.
A little bit of technical difficulties.
There.
All
You
right.
can hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
I can hear you. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Sorry, guys.
No worries. All good, Pablo. Congratulations on the podium. I was going to say, maybe a bit unexpected for you, considering you were running a somewhat distant 5th place when the final couple of laps started, but consistency was key here, so was staying out of trouble.
Yeah, you're right. But I feel pretty fast in the track with the car in the practice. The car was fast. I feel fast. I really like the track, but in the middle of the race, I think it was a driving issue. I just missed some apex, and in the end, the guys were a little bit faster. That's right. I'm just need to fine tuning a little bit more the car, just knowing the car. So I feel pretty good about it, anyways. Really like the race, a comeback race, because the last race I was with a flu, with 38 degrees fever doing the race, so I feel awful. So it's a nice comeback race.
Yeah, certainly. Well, what are you hoping for at Suzuka? It's a course that's a bit different from Algarve, but I think still the onus is going to be on keeping the tires cool.
Yeah, you're right. Suzuka is very special track, very hard to overtake. It will be a race of unforced errors. It's the only way that you need to feel comfortable with the car and hope for the other guys to make a little mistake, that in an old school layout as Suzuka, that I really like, by the way, it will be costly. So gonna be a tough race. The cars ask the best of you to keep it there in pace. So it will be a fine line between a good race or a disaster one.
Indeed it will. Well, congratulations on 3rd place, Pablo. Hopefully we can chat to you after Suzuka.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Greetings for my team, Final Lab, all the guys in Chile and in America, for Luis and all the other guys are racing in the other simulations, Assetto Corsa and Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Pablo Valenzuela Uribe with 3rd place overall tonight here, Mark. And finally, we can have a chat to our AM class winner, Blake Ziti.
Yeah, sitting here with Blake Ziti, P1 in the AM class. Congratulations, Blake. Did you expect to get that win with just a few laps to go?
Hey guys, no, absolutely not. I didn't expect to win. Unfortunately for me, Baker had a little incident at the end there, and yeah, he gave me that win. These 2 wins that I've had this season don't quite feel deserved, but hey, I'll take what I could get.
Well, you say they don't feel deserved, but you got to put yourself in the position to be able to mop up the mess when it happens, though. So you got to give yourself credit for that, being in the position for when the chaos does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be in the race and finish, obviously, with your car intact, and I was able to capitalize on this time around. So yeah, it's I feel good, and at the end of the race, my pace is really well. I think I could have had David there at the end, but it was a real fun track. I had a good time.
Well, certainly glad to hear that. Next week, Blake, though, it's over in Japan again for Suzuka. Do you enjoy that track? Are you looking forward to running there next week?
Absolutely. I think it's one of our bigger circuits, and looking forward to getting this thing on a big track like that and see how we could perform.
Well, Blake, once again, you're a P1 winner. And before we let you go, Blake, do you have anyone you want to shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to just thank my team, SRT. I know the boys had a rough run there at the end. Thanks to those guys, and of course, thanks to you guys for always putting on a great show for us.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, Blake. That is your AM class winner for this round at Algarve. Next week is Suzuka Reese. What are your thoughts for that?
I'm just looking forward to seeing these cars on their home soil again, really. Suzuka, one of the premier race tracks in Japan, if not the world, and it's going to be a tough one. Plenty of corners, plenty of long flowing sections of track that are going to be crucial to get right. Maybe aero push is going to be a factor here, especially in Sector 1. Make sure that you join us on May the 16th, once again at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be a fun ride for sure, and we'll get closer and closer to crowning our inaugural PRL Super Formula champion. Thanks for joining us on RaceSpotTV. I'm Reese Gardner, Mark Kalen with me in the comms box, Dustin Ollis behind the scenes. We really appreciate you all, and we'll see you next week.